What if I told you that, while the entire planet was busy watching Meghan Markle blow out the candles on her 45th birthday cake, King Charles was quietly signing a document that would legally erase his own son from the family fortune? No shouting, no press release. Just a fountain pen, a locked room, and a move so cold it made every Netflix special and tell-all book look like kids arguing in a sandbox. Stick with me till the very end, because the twist about how Prince William accidentally handed his dad the weapon to lock him out is genuinely jaw-dropping, and if you love royal stories nobody else is telling, hit subscribe right now so you don't miss what's coming. Here's the thing everyone missed. For years, we've all treated the royal drama like a soap opera. Who insulted who cried before the wedding, who leaked what to which paper. But this was never about feelings. This was a king sitting alone at Sandringham, calmly rewriting the entire money and legal skeleton of the House of Windsor, so that anyone who chooses to live outside Britain gets permanently shut out. And the craziest part, he pulled it off using an emergency legal tool so obscure that barely a handful of palace lawyers even remembered it still existed. So let's rewind and walk through exactly what went down, because the timeline is honestly unhinged. Early August 2026. The whole world's cameras are pointed at Montecito, everyone speculating whether the palace will publicly wish Meghan a happy birthday, whether her lifestyle brand got delayed again, the usual noise. And while all those eyeballs are glued to California, Charles is up north quietly executing something called a cortisol. Now, I genuinely had to read that word 3 times because it sounds like something you'd order at an Italian restaurant, but it's not pasta. It's a rare emergency power that lets the monarch, all by himself, restructure private non-crown wealth without asking Parliament, without asking the cabinet, without asking anyone. Think of it like pulling a fire alarm that instantly slams and bolts every single door in the building at the same time. It only exists for moments the king decides are a genuine crisis that can't wait. And Charles decided August 2026 was exactly that moment. But here's the part that shows how calculated this was. The timing wasn't luck. By striking during a week already flooded with birthday headlines, the paperwork could slip through with zero attention. Nobody was checking the court circular. Nobody was watching trust filings. Every reporter was staring at Montecito, which is precisely where the palace wanted them staring. And what he actually signed is where your jaw hits the floor, because Charles didn't just freeze a bank account, he rebuilt the whole inheritance system around one brutal sentence. Ready for it? Any family member who keeps their main home outside the British Isles for 5 straight years is now automatically kicked out of the core money in the trust set up back in 1994. And that 5-year number? Not random at all. It lines up perfectly with the moment Harry stepped back from royal life in 2020. By the day this was signed, Harry had been in California for roughly 6 years. Do the math, he was already past the line before the ink even touched the paper. Technically the wording points forward, but in reality it reaches straight back and catches him. And here's the genius. If you can even call disinheriting your own kid genius, it turns a messy family fight into cold, boring, unarguable law. No emotional appeal, no negotiation. No tearful phone call that fixes everything. The rule either applies to where you live or it doesn't. Live in Montecito? It doesn't. But hold on, because Charles didn't stop at money, and this is where it stops being a financial move and starts looking like a full-blown campaign. The document also went after physical treasures, specifically items that had been quietly promised for decades to Princess Diana's descendants, and there was one piece the lawyers zeroed in on: a diamond and ruby tiara gifted to Diana by a foreign head of state back in the 1980s. For years, everyone assumed it would eventually go to Harry's kids, but under this new framework, the palace reclassified it, no longer personal property, now an official diplomatic gift. And that tiny relabeling, massive. A diplomatic gift belongs to the state, not a person. It goes straight into the Tower of London collection. It can't be sold, can't be inherited, can't be used to back a loan. And once something's locked in as state property, getting it back is basically impossible. You'd have to prove the original label was fraud. And good luck arguing fraud when the king himself signed off on it. And somehow the next move is even more aggressive. Buried in the document is a footnote about personal letters Harry wrote as a teenager at Eton. These are kept in a climate-controlled vault under the Sandringham library. I know, that already sounds like a scene from a gothic thriller, but stay with me. The document quietly transfers the legal copyright of those teenage writings straight to William's office. Under property law, whoever physically owns letters holds serious power over them. So in plain English, any future book, documentary, or project that quotes those letters or describes those early family moments now has to get William's permission first. They didn't just lock the vault, they seized the rights to Harry's own teenage handwriting. That's not about cash. That's about controlling the story. And it's permanent. Now here's where the trap truly snaps shut. Built into the document is a clause that says the second any disqualified family member challenges this in court, it automatically triggers the public release of every private financial audit of that person's post-royal business ventures. Read that again. So the California household now faces an impossible choice. Option 1. Accept it, stay silent, lose the trust money forever, move on. Option 2. Fight it in court, and the moment you do, every deal, every contract, every dollar from the Netflix agreement, to the book advance, to the speaking gigs, gets dragged into public view. It's a gag order disguised as property law. Want to fight for your inheritance? Fine. But the fight itself strips your entire business naked. This wasn't built to win in court. It was built so court never happens. Checkmate written in legal fine print. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. While all of this was being sealed, Prince William had no clue it was even happening. The first sign something was wrong? His access to the royal digital systems suddenly went dark from Sandringham's end. His office started calling. Nobody picked up. Charles was locked away with his legal team, so William did the only thing he could, jumped in a helicopter, and flew north with no 48-hour notice, no security sweep, nothing. He lands in pouring rain, walks up to the door, presses his thumb to the scanner, and gets a red light. Access denied. In the 2 hours before he arrived, his biometric entry had been wiped from the system by an official warrant issued under the king's own authority. Through the glass slit in the security door, William watched the king's private secretary, Sir Clive Alderton, stroll down the corridor, carrying a locked leather case tagged for international diplomatic transit. William banged on the glass. Alderton simply held up a signed order, demanding total silence, and kept walking. Just let that sink in. The future king, physically locked out of a building he's going to inherit, watching documents that reshape everything walk right past him. And why couldn't he stop it legally? This is the wildest part of the whole story. 2 years earlier, during a boring routine estate reshuffle, William signed a land lease near Highgrove. Hidden deep in the fine print was a clause giving the reigning monarch the permanent right to move around non-land assets during a family restructuring. William signed without reading the tiny details. That one overlooked clause became the exact key Charles used to lock him out. William literally handed his father the weapon. That's not irony, that's estate planning so sharp most law firms couldn't dream it up in 10 years. And the signing ceremony itself proves how bulletproof they made this. By law, a monarch's private will change, can't be witnessed by family, staff, or anyone who benefits. So the palace brought in 3 completely neutral heavyweights, a senior High Court judge, Dame Sarah Aspen, the Chancellor of the Diocese of Norwich, Sir John Baker, and constitutional historian Professor David Starkey. All 3 had to stand in the same room, watch the king sign, then sign themselves, to satisfy the Wills Act of 1837. When William burst in, waving printed regulations, demanding they stop, arguing that moving historic heirlooms needed a second certificate from the Victoria and Albert Museum, the judge calmly told him the king had already secured that certificate 3 days earlier in London. Every single objection had been predicted and blocked in advance. The signing took under 3 minutes. Charles walked in at 8:04, leaning on a silver-topped cane, never once looking at his son. He sat, took out his glasses, dipped his pen, signed the bottom of page 3. The 3 witnesses signed right after, each pressing the Sandringham wax seal. Not one word passed between father and son. The document went into the leather case and became fully binding the instant the last signature dried. Moments later, the phone rang, London reporting that 3 major overseas investment files holding the liquid reserves of the Duchy of Lancaster had automatically locked down. And a bank statement found in a drawer revealed a huge chunk of private offshore wealth had been moved into a permanent fund dedicated only to restoring the state apartments at Windsor Castle and Holyrood Palace. The money is now chained to the buildings themselves. Future kings get guaranteed cash for roof and stone repairs, but no free pool of money they can spend however they like. In the days after, London's elite law firms quietly realized a line had been crossed forever. The palace was done managing family friction with PR and gentle briefings. They'd switched to the raw, unbending force of property law to demand total compliance and total silence across the family. Inside the household, the view formed fast, sudden and secretive, yes, but necessary to shut down years of instability coming from California. All that friction from outside business ventures and public commentary had, in their eyes, threatened the crown's dignity and future. So Charles skipped the conversations entirely and just wrote the boundaries into law. The whole mindset flipped. This wasn't a family feud anymore. It was a defensive lockdown of royal resources, and that's the real lesson here. The monarchy just traded handshakes and unspoken understandings for cold clauses, residency deadlines, and unbreakable deeds. The future king now inherits a crown wrapped in legal armor, but also handcuffs he can't remove. For Harry, every road back is sealed. Even if he moved to Britain tomorrow, the 6 years already gone have triggered the disqualification. No grace period, no do-over. The heirlooms are state property in the Tower. His teenage words are controlled by William. Every path back was closed not with angry letters, but with quiet paperwork and a disabled thumbprint. The era of the soft, forgiving monarchy ended on one rainy afternoon, and the family members who tried to live independently became its very first casualties. So what do you think? Was this a cold-blooded betrayal, or the smartest defensive move in royal history? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one. If this blew your mind, smash that like button. Share it with someone who loves royal drama, and subscribe so you catch the next story nobody else dares to tell. See you in the next one.